All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack a story that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a Cold War movie, but it is happening right now. It's a story that involves a gigantic island, a global superpower, and a historic alliance that's being pushed right to the edge. This is the Greenland standoff.
And that really brings us to the central question, the one that's at the heart of this whole thing. How on earth did Greenland, this huge, remote, self-governing part of Denmark, suddenly become the center of a crisis that could actually threaten to unravel one of the world's oldest and most important military alliances? It's a really fascinating and, frankly, pretty alarming situation.
So, to really understand what's going on, we have to start with the island itself. Because this isn't just about ice and snow, this is about location, it's about resources, and it's about strategic power in the 21st century. At its very core, the conflict is actually pretty straightforward. You've got the United States, under the Trump administration, making it crystal clear that it wants control over Greenland. The official reason given is national security. I mean, it's strategically placed, it's got a critical U.S. airbase, and it's thought to have massive deposits of rare earth minerals. But Denmark and the people of Greenland are just as clear in their response. The island is not for sale. Period. Full stop. And that fundamental disagreement, that's the engine driving this entire conflict.
But here's where the official story gets a little murky. According to reports, the sheer intensity of the U.S. position might have been fueled by personal feelings, which just cranked up the diplomatic outrage even more. It's a pretty powerful reminder that sometimes international relations are driven by a lot more than just cold, hard strategy. And you know, this didn't just stay a war of words for long. The standoff escalated really quickly, from just tough talk into actual, concrete actions that seriously raised the stakes for everybody involved.
You can just see how things kept ratcheting up, right? It's a classic tit for tat. Denmark responds to all the rhetoric by deploying its own troops. The U.S. fires back by threatening major economic pressure. Well, that gets other allies nervous, so they start coordinating their own defense activities in the Arctic. And all the while, public protests are getting bigger and bigger, adding this whole other layer of pressure.
And let's be real, that economic leverage is no small thing. A 25% tariff, that's not just a warning shot. That is a major economic weapon, and it's designed to put maximum pressure on Denmark and its European partners. The goal was pretty much to force them to the table to talk about Greenland.
Now, you have to remember, this isn't just a squabble happening between governments in closed-door meetings. Oh no. The people of Greenland and Denmark have actually taken to the streets. The hands-off Greenland movement shows this really strong, popular rejection of the U.S. proposal, and that adds a really powerful public voice to the whole crisis.
Okay, so with tensions running this high, let's just take a second to break down the official arguments. What is each side actually saying to justify their position in all this?
So on one side, you've got Denmark. They're standing firm on the principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity, basically saying, this is ours. They're also warning that what the U.S. is doing could seriously fracture the NATO alliance. On the other side, the U.S. administration is arguing that, hey, we're in a new era of competition with Russia and China, especially in the Arctic, and Greenland is just strategically essential. But what's really interesting is that this view isn't even unanimous inside the U.S., with some lawmakers openly disagreeing with this kind of confrontational approach.
Okay, so you might be wondering, why should I care about a dispute over a sparsely populated island way up north? Well, because the ripple effects of the standoff go way, way beyond the Arctic. They touch on the very foundation of global security. And let's be perfectly clear here. Experts are looking at this as a historically significant moment. For one NATO member to be openly pressuring another member over its own sovereign territory, that's almost unheard of. It represents a huge potential turning point in the relationship between the United States and its closest allies in Europe.
To really get the gravity of the situation, you just have to remember what NATO is. It's a collective defense pact built on trust. The core idea, the entire reason it exists, is that an attack on one is an attack on all. So when two members are in a serious dispute like this one, it makes every other member start to question the credibility of that foundational promise.
And that leads directly to these massive implications. First, it chips away at NATO's credibility. Second, those tariff threats, they could easily spin out of control into a full-blown trade war between the US and the EU. And third, this whole episode is basically a giant blinking sign that the Arctic is the new frontier for geopolitical competition between world powers. So at the end of the day, this isn't just two allies having a little spat. This is a complex, multi-layered conflict that weaves together national security, military strategy, economic coercion, and these fundamental questions about what it even means to be a sovereign nation. It's a perfect storm of modern geopolitical pressures.
Which really leaves us with a final, and honestly,
kind of chilling question. As climate change continues to thaw the Arctic, opening up new shipping lanes, new resources, and new military possibilities, will the very alliances that have kept the world relatively stable for decades begin to crack and freeze over? The standoff over Greenland suggests that might just be a future we need to get ready for.